Hey guys, welcome to our talk today. My name is Catherine Case, and I recorded this video about a week and a half ago about teaching emotional intelligence in the classroom. And I realized that everyone, no matter where you are, you need to be thinking about emotional intelligence. You need to be talking about emotional intelligence because we need more emotional intelligence. Frankly, like if you look around the world, you're going to switch these. I feel like they're backwards. That's better. Does that really make a difference? I think it does. Anyways, talk about noticing things. And with, if you look at the world right now, people are having a hard time getting along, right? People are having a hard time really understanding their feelings and maybe ignoring their feelings or being too emotional. So there's a reason why we have emotions, and emotions are good things. They are indicators for something else going on, right? Emotions are very real and shouldn't be ignored. But we're all just a little bit too emotional right now. We're just a little bit too caught up in the primal brain, and we need to return to the logical brain. Can you agree with me? So my background, I'll go into a little bit here. I'm going to start a little slideshow for you. I taught this class on teaching emotional intelligence in the classroom. My background is in education. But after I finished my master's basically in logic, I went on to teach in a self-contained therapeutic classroom, talk about emotional. That was very emotional. And our whole goal was to help kids heal from past pain, help them understand their emotions so that they could actually learn. And I feel like we need to do that with a lot of grown-ups on Facebook right now. I feel like we need to do that with a lot of grown-ups in politics right now. Let's understand our emotions so that we can deal with them in healthy ways and then return to logic land. My kids have this VTech toy that goes, it's going through like the menu of what you can play. And one of the things is like logic land. And so that's one of the things that I want to invite you back to logic land. Let's, if you are like the calming influence in your sphere, keep doing it. And if you're not, you can become the calming influence in your sphere, your, whatever you are, your work environment, your family, Facebook, wherever you have influence. I want you to come in as the calming influence. I want you to understand emotions, understand empathetically where other people might be coming from, understand your own emotions. Do not meet them where they are. So when we were in the therapeutic classroom, if you meet a kid where they are, like they're up here, and you try to meet them where they are with like intensity, they're gonna go higher. And that's not good because it's just gonna escalate. So you need to come in as the calm influence, the logical grown-up. Okay, even if maybe you're dealing with people who are older than you could still come in as the logical grown-up with your emotions in control. Like, what's going on, that you've been triggered, and let's go back to logic land. So I'm going to teach you some tricks for understanding that, ways to integrate essential oils into that practice, because that's part of my story too. And, let's just make the world better. Like, we can do better, you guys, we can do better. So anyways, my background is in literature and theater. I went, with the intention of finishing my bachelor's and teaching high school English. But I went on to get my master's. And from there, I never ended up teaching high school English because I found some other things that really were more of a priority for me. So from there, it was the crash of the economy when I finished, and I couldn't get a job teaching college writing. And I went into this therapeutic classroom. That experience was not very long, but it taught me so many things that really shaped who I was, because it trained me to run into the fray. So if two of my students were physically fighting, I had to run into what they were doing. And because I was the grown up there, like I was the one who needed to de-escalate the situation. I had a lot of unique experiences in that environment. And it just taught me more about myself, that I could go against what my normal instincts. So if you have like fight or flight instincts, my instinct would be lie down and die. There is a third option. That would be my option. Not fight, not flee, but lay down and die. So that's my natural, like that's where I am. As far as, I remember watching a war movie in high school and just thinking I would just hide somewhere and just hope it was all over, because I'm not really the type to fight, but I have learned through training how to fight when it is necessary, right? So anyways, now as a mom, I'm a full-time mom and I do doTERRA, and it's been a blessing, and I'm able to focus on my areas of interest. So you can have a doTERRA business and, flourish in a number of different ways. So my areas of expertise are just focusing on personal care, self-care, being proactive with your health, just staying, healthy as a whole person, your body, your mind, and your spirit. So let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back to the 80s and talk about why I care about this topic. So as a child, I was not a peaceful person. I had some crazy Tasmanian devil rage, and I don't know why. I still don't know why. Could it have been that I was drinking my weight in Kool-Aid every day? The sugar and the artificial colors, those are not good for your brain or your emotions. Could it be that we didn't discuss emotions and I didn't know how to articulate how I was feeling? That could be part of it. Could it be that I was really furious that I had this mullet? Is that why I was so angry? I don't know. And we don't really need to know why. But the thing that we do need to know is that you don't have to be an angry Tasmanian devil. I can remember like this little child, I was probably about 4 years old. My mom usually sent me outside to run. Like she sent me outside to run laps around the outside of the house to burn off some of my crazy energy. Really glad she didn't medicate me. Now, if there was a child behaving the way I behaved, they would probably be medicated. So I'm glad they just let me work it out on my own. But I remember that she sent me to my room for something. I shared a room with my sister. Our beds were really close together. And I remember flipping my mattress. I probably weighed 40 pounds, and I flipped my whole mattress, all the bedding off, because I just was so angry about something and I didn't really know how to deal with it. So, anyways, obviously I grew out of that. You could ask my husband, I don't flip mattresses anymore. And actually, like when I started dating him, all of his friends called me Sweet Kate. And my friend recently, I was with her at our doTERRA convention. She's like, I'm so glad that I got to spend time with you. You're just such a peaceful presence. And you know what? It's amazing. And the only things that could have helped me become a peaceful presence are healing emotionally, understanding how emotions work, Jesus, like the healing power of Jesus, and understanding logic, like moving into logic land, moving into understanding that every chaotic experience is just your opportunity to infuse some calm and some peace. Okay. So don't miss those opportunities. Just go in there. So we'll talk about some general statistics that are not great. But just know that it's going to get better. Hang in there with me. These can sound discouraging, but it's just part of taking off, the bandage and seeing the wound for what it is so we can address it. So nearly 1 in 3 adolescents will meet criteria for an anxiety disorder by the age of 18. Social, political, and environmental causes are likely implicated in an increase in the number of teens each year who have had a depressive episode, up 37%. So this is increasing between 2005, which is about the time I graduated from undergrad, and 2014. So we're definitely headed in the wrong direction. We can blame a lot of things for this. We can blame social media. If any of my friends who are researchers in the mind watching this, I would love somebody to dig into that, like the effects of social media on the adolescent mind. I know some people are digging into that. It's really, I know that for grownups, when we are looking at social media too much, we experience negative feelings without really even realizing it. But for that adolescent mind where the frontal lobe hasn't even developed yet, it can't be good. So children ages 0 to 17 medicated for mental health. So there are over 1 million on antipsychotic drugs and over 1 million on anti-anxiety drugs. Maybe some of them have overlap. I know a lot of my students in the self-contained classroom were heavily medicated. Sometimes medication is necessary, and sometimes it is actually just blocking what's going to be a response anyway. So sometimes those medications they're called inhibitors or blockers, and they're just blocking the neural pathway, and the brain is going to find a way to wire around that anyway. And that's when doctors would need to up a medication or find a different one that's going to block a different pathway. So I find that when we are, doing that, one of my students was so heavily medicated, we couldn't even really talk to her anymore. She was a really bright kid, really bright. She could do, you could explain anything to her and she would get it. But she just had a lot of emotional issues, and she had a physical fight with her boyfriend and was medicated after that. And she knew it, and she would wake up herself, and then she would take whatever they handed her in the nurse dispensary, and we wouldn't see her again for the rest of the day. It was really sad. Excuse me. So I still think about those kids. I know they've all aged out of the system and they're on their own somewhere. And I just hope that they're doing okay. I wish that I knew then what I know now. So even though we are headed in the wrong direction, it takes knowing where we are and where we're going to stop it, to change our path. So every time I check in on these stats, they increase drastically. And I just wonder what society is going to look like if we keep going this way, right? So if you're a teacher and you're watching this, or just a mom, if you are really a human being in community with other human beings, you can have influence, okay? So let's talk about the factors of feelings. We always, know that feelings are usually under the surface. A lot of people say that anger, for example, is a secondary emotion. So the thing that's usually ahead of anger is fear. So once you dig under what the anger at the surface, you usually know that fear is living under that. So there's many biological factors for emotion. So there's always debate in this arena if the emotions, which is like the physical response, is a result of what's going on in the brain, or if the brain is being influenced by the emotions. So it doesn't really matter where. What matters is just kind of understanding the general sense of what emotions are. We don't need to dig in. If we're just lay people, we don't need to dig into all the research, but understanding the role that emotions play and how we can control them, how we can deal with them in healthy ways, and how we could bring logic back into the picture. So a lot of children are experiencing sensory issues. Sensory processing disorders are up. They affect anywhere between 5 to 15% of school-age children. I kind of feel, my sister and I have talked about this, like I kind of feel like I have some sensory issues. I don't really like loud noises. I'm kind of irritated by like clothing that's restrictive, all those things. So if you feel like that, do you ever feel like that as an adult? Like you get home from work and remove the work clothes because you're just like, ugh, gotta get the day off. If you feel like that, children might feel like that too. And just be aware of how the children around you are feeling with all that stuff. Like watch them when a loud noise happens. Watch them if there's too much chaos going on. Their hierarchy of needs. If a child's basic physiological needs aren't met, they're going to do everything they can to meet those needs. So Maslow's hierarchy is that like triangle. If they're hungry, if they're cold, if they're uncomfortable, if they feel fearful, they're only going to be operating in the primal brain. They're not going to be able to move out of that primal brain to actually engage in learning. So same goes for your kiddos at home. If they're feeling big emotions, you need to meet them, as a calm influence, help them out of that emotional brain, the primal brain, and be able to talk to them about what they're actually feeling. And then another aspect might be the nutrition. Our food supply is crazy. I overheard my kids playing with their pretend food. They were playing restaurant, and my daughter, who's 3, said, our food supply is whack, because she's heard me say that before. So our food supply is really crazy. Like if you think about where your food has come from, and the journey that it's been on to get to you and what might be in it, it's not great, you guys. GMO soy was not in our grandparents' food supply. My grandparents grew up around agriculture, and my grandpa passed away a few years ago, but I remember him driving. It was probably around, it was around like 2010. So my grandma had already passed away, and he was driving and coming down to see me where I lived in Columbus. And he was like, I don't know what they're doing with all that soy, but he could see that like soy was growing everywhere from his house on the Pennsylvania-Ohio border to central Ohio. Soy was all over, and it's all genetically modified. And I mean, Americans don't sit around popping edamame that much. So what are they doing with all this soy? Who's eating all this soy? Well, we are. It's just in it, everything is a byproduct. So it's pretty disgusting what that can do in your body. The genetically modified soy acts as an estrogen in your body that isn't good. And we wonder why people are out of balance with their hormones and their emotions and all these things, why inflammation is the chronic thing in the United States, not just in Ohio, because the farmers there are sending that. But if you look at every single processed thing on the shelf has soy in it. Cereal, crackers, beverages have soy, and just look at the labels. And so that's a side note, because I was thinking about that this week, but it really does have a large impact. Your food is everything. Your food is fueling your body, and it makes a huge difference if you're having good food or bad food. So let's talk a little bit about what emotional intelligence is. It's the capacity to be aware of, to control, and express one's emotions. So again, teaching this to your children is very crucial. If you provide this framework early, it's going to be so beneficial. They're going to be able to articulate what they're feeling. They're going to be able to understand other people's emotions better. So if somebody comes in them hot, at them hot with like this angry emotion, they can calmly talk to them about what they're feeling and de-escalate the situation. It's going to help in all those relationships, and just produce a lot of maturity from an early age. So if you're not there yet, start working on it. Okay. Here's some aspects of emotional intelligence. Self-awareness, motivation. What is motivating people? Often this is where that fear lives, right? people are often motivated by fear. Social skills, like being able to communicate in healthy ways, self-regulation, just not touching people or not like physically fighting people. I used to get in physical fights when I was little. I would get in physical fights with boys, not at school, but in our neighborhood or on the soccer field. And so I definitely needed to learn how to control that. And then empathy, like understanding how other people are feeling, or just being able to ask the right questions to better understand how people are feeling. So like social skills, empathy can be taught. So encourage children. Even my children, for years, they're only 3 and 6, but I've been asking them, how do you think that made him feel when you did that? Or how do you think your friend feels when you take their toy? And then all of a sudden they're just developing that framework for empathy. So again, I talked about this, how to de-escalate when big feelings are overtaking a situation. Sometimes you have to put your feelings on the back burner to de-escalate a situation. So you might want to really be heard. Like you need this person on Facebook to understand your point on this argument. And that's just it's not going to work, you guys. It's not how you're going to de-escalate the situation. And maybe you don't care to de-escalate on Facebook because they're not going to come punch you or whatever. But I say, don't miss a chance to add some calm into the chaos. Don't miss those chances, because that's what we're here for. I kind of feel like that's the whole point of people being on earth, is that we're here to inject some peace, inject some love, inject some logic. So depending on what your environment is like, it might not be a classroom, but wherever you are, you may not have time to always do this. But I feel like if it can be part of who you are, it's just kind of part of your operating system, it's just going to be more natural to you. So you can, if you're in an office situation or a classroom, you can, especially if you're in a position of leadership, take a moment aside to ask some feelings. You can interrupt the pattern. A lot of times these things are mental patterns, like we talked about with the neural pathways. Your brain, we've learned in the last 15 years or so, you can actually help retrain your brain. Now, scientists have discovered neuroplasticity. So you can, if somebody's in this pattern of negativity all the time, and you can help interrupt that. You can, even if they're not open to using essential oils, you can diffuse in your area. You can have a diffuser bracelet. Like if you can't physically diffuse, like if you work, in a factory setting or something like that, you could become a human diffuser and have your oils on. But you can interrupt these negative patterns. I heard one story about some people working in an office setting, and there's this one coworker who's just so negative, and she's so just always comes in and has so much drama and negativity. And the woman who was working at the front desk started diffusing around her office, and they found they were diffusing for bugs. So she was diffusing Terra Shield to repel some fruit flies or something in the office. And while she was diffusing that woman avoided the area. So the Terra Shield is a repellent blend, and it was literally repelling this woman's negative energy. Now that's not a scientific study, but if you have one of those people who works with you, it's worth trying to see, just see if it helps. So put on some repellent. Another blend that is really beneficial for those negative feelings is the Forgive blend from the Emotional Intelligence line. And I will dig into that in a minute. But there's another technique that we can talk about called anchoring. And so if you're helping friends or working with people who have anxious patterns, When that person's in a healthy, calm state, you introduce an essential oil. So one that I would like to, I'm digging here in my bag. Balance is a good one, or any of the citrus oils are going to be beneficial. So when that person's in a healthy state, you introduce that aroma. And they could just smell it, or you could put it on any way that you're introducing that. And we all know that aroma and memory are tied closely together, right? Because every time you smell a person's fragrance, you think of them. If you're walking through a crowd and somebody's wearing your mom's perfume, you think of her. Or if you smell something baking and you think of your grandmother or something like that. There's also a negative association sometimes. But what this anchoring can allow you to do, and psychotherapists use this, and they can use it without even the oil, just by having some verbal cues. But the essential oil, because it operates in that primal brain, it can get right in there and affect the amygdala because it crosses the blood-brain barrier. And you can use that aroma memory connection to your benefit. Okay. So once this person starts getting into that feeling of being overwhelmed by chaos and anxious feelings, you can start diffusing that oil or get it on them and bring them back to that feeling when they were calm and peaceful and in control. And then you could talk about what they're feeling. So go back to logic land and talk about what they were feeling. So coping skills are so important. So with children, they can be really simple. It can be really easy with children. With an adult, they might be a little bit more skeptical and cynical about what to do. So depending on the age, again, you're going to look at their personal needs. Have their personal needs been met? Are they hungry? Like sometimes you just need to give somebody a snack. Are they thirsty? Are they tired? Do they feel unsafe? If any of those things are in jeopardy, you need to address that first. There's also things that you can do to help children feel in control, like maybe have a sensory experience with aromatherapy Play-Doh. I have that recipe on my Pinterest page that you can make some Play-Doh with balance and serenity infused in it. That's going to be good for younger children, maybe even older people too. Journaling, list some positive alternatives. So say somebody exploded in anger during a meeting or something like that. What are some positive things you could do instead next time? So make a list of 5 things. It's really simple. And again, that's going to build into the framework of just how they operate next time. Breathing and relaxation. So my sister is a yoga teacher, and she, when I was doing a self-care group a couple months ago, taught some really great breathing techniques. And she does this with her kids. When you take a few deep breaths and you exhale hard, like push the air out, it's engaging your vagus nerve, which is like all the way through your body as part of your central nervous system. So if you can engage that, you incorporate the oils with it, you're all of a sudden taking control of your whole body again. Speaker listener technique. This is a really great, I never learned this until I was on staff at our church, and I wish I had this when I was younger, because it's a really healthy way to do conflict resolution, to make sure everyone is heard, to make sure people feel heard. So teach people to listen, teach your children to listen, teach yourself to listen. When the speaker has the floor, listen to them and then ask them to repeat back what it sounds like they're saying. So if somebody says, I feel this way when you do this, and you would say, it sounds like you feel unheard when I interrupt you, right? Because that's true. Get really clear about what they're saying. So many of our conflicts can be resolved by clear communication. So some of the biggest debates in the United States, on Facebook, in our politics could be resolved with clearer communication. It really could. It really could. And then come together to make a plan for next time. Like how could it be better? How could you feel better? How could we resolve this situation? Sometimes it means not being around that person. Like sometimes you just need good boundaries and you can't be around that person. But a lot of times you can come to an agreement that is a little bit better for all parties, right? So let's talk about incorporating the oils into all of these pieces. Being empowered, drawing on the connection of our body and our mind and our spirit. There's a free ebook if you go to doTERRA, and they have a series of ebooks. There's a little link there. It goes into the specifics on emotional aromatherapy, and you are going to love that. It's free. Print it out, punch some holes in it and stick it in a binder. It's just going to be a really, really useful, practical tool for you. I want you to be aware. I hate that I still have to say this, but not all oils are created equal. And actually, most oils on the market are not actual essential oils. They're synthetic. And we know recent research has shown that these things cannot be duplicated in a lab, no matter how much, how much people try to reproduce these things as synthetics. They really are not the same. They're not going to have a positive effect on your body. Don't cheap out on your oils. Okay. So anything that I'm saying only applies to one specific brand, which is doTERRA. So researchers at Roseman University, unbeknownst to doTERRA, bought a bunch of essential oils, a bunch of brands. They bought a bunch from doTERRA. They bought a bunch from other companies, and they found that only doTERRA is consistent. Only doTERRA is pure all the time and potent all the time. Those are the only ones that are used by medical institutions because they are really consistent, because you can go look up the results on sourceto.com and know exactly what is in the oil, and it's very important. So I hate that I have to say that, but I am going to keep saying that until, something changes. But the oil industry is not regulated. And so people can say whatever they want on the label. It's really, really stinky and shady, and it can be a really dark industry if you're not getting them from the right company. So here we go again. So this is why. So we need to be able to verify what's in those bottles. And so you can look on source2.com. doTERRA has 96% exclusive sourcing. So 96% of our global sourcing is exclusive. So that means that people who are growing our mandarin for mandarin oil are only selling theirs to doTERRA. So if somebody's saying ours are just like doTERRA, like they're not, they just really can't be. doTERRA has CoImpact Sourcing, which we'll go into in a minute. doTERRA is privately owned. They're not traded. They're a debt-free company. They're trusted by hospitals and universities. And there's a medical initiative starting where doTERRA is working with Prime Meridian Health to set up clinics all over the United States. We're getting one here in Nashville where I live. There's 4 more opening this year, and then Atlanta is going to be shortly after, and they're just going to be popping up all over the United States. So it's a really, really great, a great thing for our healthcare. So we can teach empathy through CoImpact Sourcing too. If you are trying to teach empathy to your children or in a educational setting, go to doTERRA's Healing Hands Foundation website, or look at what some of the videos on CoImpact Sourcing that are on doTERRA's YouTube channel, and you will see that the way that doTERRA is choosing to source their oils changes the economies around the world. It's changing people's lives, like it's pulling people out of poverty and lifting up farmers. It's really amazing. and it's makes you proud. Like just by buying a bottle of cardamom or something, you can be helping someone in Guatemala. Just by buying vetiver, you're helping someone in Haiti. It's beautiful. So I could go on about that for days, but I want to keep this to about half an hour. I always try to keep these short because I know that you're busy and I appreciate you being here. So I'm going to dig into some of the useful tools. So these oils, the emotional aromatherapy line, are so powerful. They've been studied in a clinical oncology setting just for the staff there. You can imagine staff in a clinical oncology setting are experiencing some compassion fatigue. They see hard things, they do hard things. And the oil that came out on top for them was the Forgive oil, which I would not guess. I would have guessed maybe peace, because that's what I use when I'm experiencing like overwhelming anxious feelings, or cheer or something like that. But Forgive was the one that they tested to be most potent. So you can use these 3 different ways. You can use them aromatically. Aromatic use is the best way to positively affect the brain because, again, the aroma, the molecules can pass through the blood-brain barrier. Not everything can do that. And for good reason, like your brain is protecting itself by not letting bad things in. So when we smell an aroma, we're immediately affecting that primal brain. And it is beneficial. So we can go back to logic land, like I said. You can use oils topically on the skin if there's for the emotions, we're not really talking about topical use, but you could apply them topically at the base of the brain in that occipital triangle. That's a really beneficial place. If you do want to apply the essential oils, you could also apply them to the tip of the big toe, which is the reflex point for your pituitary gland. So if I am feeling anxious feelings, I apply peace to the tip of my big toe and just wait for that whole calm to come over my body. And you can take oils internally, only if they have nutrition facts on the side, only if they're doTERRA oils. I would not recommend internal use of any other brand or topical or aromatic, really, because aromatically it's still going into your body, even though you're just smelling it. So if you have a fragrance in your home that's not a real oil, it's going to not be good, guys. But lavender is one of the ones that we might take internally to calm those anxious feelings. The Serenity soft gels, we use them for sleep in the evening, but if you wanted to take one in the morning to calm anxious feelings, they're going to be very beneficial for that. So let's talk about the factors of feelings again with incorporating the oils. So they're going to open the amygdala. The only things that can open the amygdala and cause people to be open to learning or hearing or communicating effectively, if that amygdala is closed when somebody is feeling not safe or their needs are not met, the amygdala stays closed. If it's open, a person is going to be receptive to communicating and learning. Okay, so the only things that can affect the amygdala that way are aroma and music. Isn't that interesting? So if you want to integrate oils into your setting, it's a really powerful tool to just create that positive atmosphere. You're already reducing toxicity. You're allowing people with sensory sensitivities to choose their own. So if you have a child with sensory processing disorder or something like that, or an adult, if they come in and they say, I don't like that oil, then it's not going to produce a positive effect. So there are some that, like, my husband really likes Arbor Vitae, and I don't like that one. I just don't like it, but he loves it. And so we are going to have different responses to different oils. So don't force something if somebody doesn't like it, unless you're diffusing TerraShield to keep annoying people away. Again, you want to de-escalate a situation. You can do pattern interrupt and then anchoring back with the familiar aroma that they've made a connection with. And then you're going to teach coping skills, deep breathing, listening and understanding, practicing better habits for next time. So I'm going to go through the emotional aromatherapy line. because they are for this purpose. So they've been designed, formulated, studied for these purposes. So cheer is just like sunshine in a bottle. It's got the citrus oils that counteracts negative emotions. It boosts happiness. So sometimes we need that cheer oil. Motivate. It's similar to Slim and Sassy, where it's like citrus and mint mixed together, but it boosts confidence and courage, replaces guilt and pessimism. Who needs that? I definitely needed that. Citrus and mint blended together. It's really yummy. Passion. It is a great one for being like triggering those creative feelings and sparking excitement. It's spicy and sweet. So it's a really good one to put in the diffuser or put just on your wrist for your own use. Peace, I talked about, it's one of my favorite in this line because I've experienced powerful benefits of it. It brings those feelings of composure and contentment. It's woodsy and floral. So it does have a little bit of the vetiver in it that I talked about that's grown in Haiti. Console is a really great one. I've applied this to my toddler when she was, in a moment of, how toddlers have those moments where all their emotions are on the surface and they might be in complete meltdown and completely out of control. I've applied that to her spine and her feet. Like if she's like on the floor when she was littler, those terrible 2 phases. And again, it's just console. It like comforts them and helps them pull out of those big emotions, come back to logic land. Let's talk about what's going on. Forgive. And that's the one that I talked about in the clinical oncology unit, where they were able to have that positive experience from the aroma, just from being diffused in the air. So it counteracts anger and guilt. So I imagine guilt and grief would be heavy things sometimes if they lose a patient. Promotes relief and patience. So I think a lot of people could use that blend. So there's a few different ways to get them. I always say friends don't let friends buy retail, especially if you're going to get all of these in a set. There's a much better way to do it. Everyone who buys a kit with doTERRA gets a wholesale membership for a year. Normally it's $35 for the year, but and then you get 25% off. So I know my Costco membership costs more than that, and my benefit is not quite as great as 25% off. And you can also choose below wholesale. So when I say below wholesale, I'm talking about doTERRA's subscription program called Loyalty Rewards. And you can customize your order every month. And if you're spending anywhere more than $50, 50 PV per month, you earn an increasing percentage back, all the way up to 30% back, which is amazing. So after a year of consistent ordering, you earn 30% back. If you're ordering fewer than 50 PV, you maintain where you are. So say you're all the way up to 25%, and for some reason you can't do a big order that month, or you only need a lip balm or something like that, or a lemon. Even placing a small order, you're going to maintain your percentage back that you've earned. So it's really great. It's called Loyalty Rewards because they reward you for being loyal. I call it subscription box because everybody likes getting a subscription box. You just go on once a month, set a reminder on your phone, or doTERRA usually sends you an email to remind you that your order is coming up, and you can customize it to be exactly what you need. So, that's from last month. So there's back in September, this kit was 20% off, which was a really great deal. But even without it being 20% off, it's still a great deal. So this aromatherapy kit, all of those oils I mentioned, plus this diffuser, the Lumo diffuser. The diffuser is basically free with this kit because the diffuser is like a $90 item. And all of these oils, if you added them up, would be more than that. So you get all of the ones that I talked about: console, forgive, peace, cheer, passion, and motivate, plus this amazing diffuser that runs for up to 10 hours. You could change the colors on it. You can turn the light off if you want to diffuse at nighttime in your bedroom and you don't want a light going in there. So that's a really great kit. Or you can go and shop the other kits that are available, or you can just do that $35 membership and choose the items that you would like a la carte. So I have a team called the Essential Oils Daily Team, and it's a really great team. If someone else introduced you to essential oils, you need to ask them if they sell it, if they do the business, and you enroll with them if they do the business. If not, if you found us through YouTube or Pinterest or social media, we would love to have you. It would be really exciting. My team is scattered all over the US, so that's why we do a lot online. So we do have teachers and nurses and yoga teachers and just moms who are passionate about wellness and raising up this generation that is going to be empowered with their healthcare. We have ongoing classes like this one and other things where you can get support and continuing education. We always do fun giveaways and lots of other things in our community groups. So I hope you'll connect with us. You can subscribe to this channel. You can connect on my website, catherinecase.com, and that's where you'll find this page with some other people who are on my team, and you can look at their bios and see if there's a person there with whom you might connect and enroll with them. So I hope that was helpful. Try to keep it to 30 minutes. It's right at 40. But there's all sorts of ways we can keep connecting and be in touch. I also have a contact form on my website if you have more specific questions that you'd like to ask, and we can set up a phone call. All right. Well, I hope that's helpful. Never miss an opportunity to inject some peace into a chaotic situation. I feel like that is a resounding thing that I just keep hearing. And so I want to share that with you and encourage you, because the world definitely needs some more peace right now. Okay, let's do that. Sounds good.